Hi everyone. Hi, I'm Arturo from Clara Foods, and we're creating the world's first animal-free egg white. Egg whites, as I'm sure you're aware, have become incredibly popular over the last few years, have making their way into grocery stores and restaurants across the country. So much so that they've tripled in price over the last 3 years to command over an $8 billion market just worldwide, wholesale-wise. But meanwhile, egg whites continue expanding into new and growing product categories beyond the classic baked goods. They've become a critical binding agent in gluten-free products and vegetarian meat substitutes. But they've also become a staple at almost every McDonald's and GNC for their protein content. But at their core, egg whites are simple. They're 90% water, 10% protein. They have almost virtually no fats or cholesterol, no carbs. And the vast majority of the protein content is represented in just a few proteins. And these proteins are actually looking at egg whites. They're an incredibly diverse set of functionalities. They're a little messed up, I don't know why, but you'll get the picture. The proteins are actually looking at egg whites, like the foaming and binding and gelation abilities that make them an indispensable ingredient across almost every product where they're used. And after much research and prototyping, we've discovered which proteins actually do what, and which proteins can actually make an egg white cook, look, and taste like any other egg white. And not only taste, but also function, is how do you create ingredients that not only that can outperform or match what's currently out there. Meaning that we can make almost any product that an egg white is ingredient in, like these French macarons. But then we thought, why just recreate what's already out there? What if you could design the perfect ingredient, the perfect product for every kind of use? And if you think about it, every single egg white that's ever been made has been the same. Whether you're a baker, making the fluffiest angel food cakes and meringues, or using egg whites as a food manufacturer as a binding agent for your gluten-free products and veggie meat substitutes. Or you're a home cook making a high-protein omelet. It's the same egg white. And so what we thought is, well, we know what the proteins do. What if we can dial in on these key characteristics? So one of the focus areas that we're looking at is the baked goods applications. So what if you can make products that actually are lighter and fluffier to create new kinds of foods and food experiences, and kind of enable bakers and chefs to truly innovate in this field. And so one of our tests was, how can you make an egg white foam a lot more to really create these new kinds of foods? And all this is just, all we do is we vary the protein profile. So egg whites have the same protein content across, regardless of the application. But the proteins are actually looking at egg whites, the foaming and binding. And so all we do is we can dial in that property and say, well, if you are a baker and you want a fluffy meringue, is you want the foam. So you can actually dial in on that property. So that's how we're able to create these new performance ingredients. But working at the individual protein level to make all of those possibilities a reality means having to use an incredibly inefficient protein factory that Jalal mentioned that we call the chicken, that converts all this water, grain, we plant the bundle with antibiotics, and then wait 20 to 25 weeks for it to even start laying eggs, get those eggs, separate them, sometimes even throw them with a yolk just to get to the egg white. And then if you want to work with the individual proteins, you have to then reverse engineer it, which becomes an incredibly inefficient process. We, on the other hand, use nature's far more efficient and environmentally friendly protein factory called the yeast, that in the same way that brewers use yeast to convert sugar into alcohol to make beer or wine, or bakers use yeast to convert sugar into carbon dioxide to leaven bread, our yeast converts the same sugar but into protein. And then all we do is mix those different proteins in the right proportions to create all our new ingredients. Our process allows us to create products that are inherently superior, but without compromising the qualities that we know and love, like taste and appearance and nutritional value, but ultimately also enabling us to create and outperform on these key performance capabilities like foaming and binding. With all these advantages, I think we're uniquely equipped to really take on this problem, because we can help companies meet their sustainability initiatives. Just like Impossible Foods is incredibly efficient compared to beef making, it's that we're up against industries that are just incredibly inefficient and incredibly unsustainable. So we can use far less water. Actually, does anyone here know how much water it takes to make a dozen eggs? How many liters? Is your French? Just take a wild guess. Say a number.
50 gallons or something like that.
50 gallons?
Yeah.
For a dozen eggs? That's a good number. Anyone else? Just say a number. You probably have a better idea. No? All right, it takes over 600 gallons of water to make a dozen eggs. That's over 2,000 liters. And it's because chickens are incredibly inefficient at converting these things. And for a large part of their life, they're just sitting there consuming without producing anything.
Well, can you repeat that? How many liters?
Yeah, it's over 2,400 liters of water to make a dozen eggs. That's around 636 gallons of water. I can send you the study if you want. I should have quoted it here, cited it. But for us, we're fortunate that we can ultimately build kind of the future of what protein looks like. It's not just for us. I think egg whites is a big goal of ours. But ultimately, is how do you reimagine protein production in a way that you can make it far more sustainable, more ethical, and ultimately more accessible to a larger number of people. Thank you.